Now it's time for our energy update with Dan McTeague, president of Canadians for Affordable Energy.
Thank you for that, Julie, and Happy New Year to everybody. I know it's been a while since we've had that opportunity to talk about gas prices for the first time here in 2024. January tends to be a very quiet month, and we've seen gas prices trickle down a little bit, in some places a little bit more than others. Of course, if you were in Manitoba, you saw a pretty big decrease, very steep, 10 cents a liter, because the provincial government removed the 9 cent a liter gas tax. Actually, they took off the entire amount, which was 14 cents a liter. Alberta, on the other hand, restored part of their provincial sales tax, so that we saw gasoline prices there, which have been hugging the dollar range, moving up back towards the $1.15 across much of Alberta with the 9 cent restoration. We've also seen prices moderate in places like Vancouver, where up until a couple of days ago you could get gasoline for $1.60. Now moving up a little higher, and the rest of the country, where even here in the GTA or the Greater Toronto Hamilton area, you're starting to see gas stations sell gasoline at or below cost. And that's because at this time of year there is very slow demand. It's past Christmas. People are looking at their bills. No one's spending a lot of money. Refineries have to get those products out. So for January, traditionally, we see prices drop and they stay there. But there are a number of factors, Julie, that are important to consider that the federal government and globally we have to look at. Newfoundland, for instance, saw a 2 cent increase for gasoline and 4 cent for diesel, not because of the markets, but because of the second phase of the federal government's second carbon tax, the Clean Fuel Standard. We're also looking at geopolitical issues around the world, and energy markets have been a little odd for the past I'd say a little while, a lot longer than that, ignoring fundamentals. There's a belief that there's plenty of oil out there and not enough demand, and therefore prices should go down. But when you see tensions in the Red Sea, with U.S. and British forces involved with repelling what amounts to pirating in that region, an area known for about 20 to 22% of the oil transiting through there. You know that traditionally we've seen prices go up, and they will likely go up at some point should the tensions continue to rise. We also know, of course, this time of year, a big factor in driving energy costs is not so much gasoline, but diesel, heating oil. And we are now starting to see cold weather throughout much of North America. This weekend will be a good example of where we're getting back to more seasonal weather. And that usually puts a bit of a crimp on diesel prices. So what we're looking at for the foreseeable future, at least for the week ahead, is a net increase across the country of about 3 to 4 cents a liter, maybe 7 to 8 cents a liter for diesel. In Western Canada, we've already started to see this in the prairies, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta, and central BC. The spot market, which is out of Chicago, jumped about roughly about 10 cents a liter, or about 23, 24 cents a gallon. That's good enough for movement upwards. And so let's start with Vancouver. I would expect prices to be about $1.68. Victoria will soon wake up from $1.59 and move back to about $1.63. That would leave the rest of the BC interior up about net 3 cents a liter. So places like Kelowna, Prince George, Kamloops could start to see prices moving back towards the $1.65 range, or maybe a little higher. As for Alberta and Saskatchewan, I think this is about as high as it goes, with Alberta in the $1.20 range. Neighboring Saskatchewan, still with its provincial sales tax, looking at more the $1.32 to $1.34 range, with the exception of Saskatoon, where gasoline is in fact being sold constantly below cost. Must be a terrible time to be a gas owner in that city, because of course you're selling gasoline less than what it costs you to pay, but they must have rich uncles. For Manitoba, look for prices to move above the $1.14 range, back to the $1.20 range. And for Ontario, where we've seen prices as low as $1.40, moving back up, and that's with the 8 cent retail margin, move that back up about 4 cents a liter to an average of $1.44.9 by this time next week. Of course, Montreal and Quebec City and Quebec itself, always 12 cents a liter more. So that would put gas prices there in the $1.57, $1.58 range, a little higher in Quebec City. As for the Maritimes, The shock will come perhaps a week or so from now. I'm looking at a 4-cent net increase for gasoline and for diesel. That's it for this week, Julie. Let's talk next week and see where we head at the end of the month of January.
Thanks for that, Dan.